All right, what day are we now? I don't know. What are we, 21st? 22nd. So right now, if you're watching this, it is approximately 5 in the morning or something. Pacific Standard Time, the 22nd of May. Now listen to this before I forget. I forgot I was going to mention this story to you guys yesterday. This isn't outdoor related, but it's related to every one of us in society. Listen to this. You're not going to believe this one. So, Sarah's mother has an elderly friend. Her name's Barbara. Lives in West Vancouver, all by herself. Recently was scammed out of thousands of dollars. The poor thing. Somebody got a hold of her, however they did it, and had her convinced she was giving them money to invest in Bitcoin. Sucked her dry of a whole bunch of money. But anyways, that's not the story. So as soon as the C-vid shit came down the pipe and the VAXs, she's one of those types where only listen to your doctor and your doctor knows everything type. Okay? Follow me. You're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. So her doctor has her loaded up to the marbles with all the latest VAXs during the whole ride, right? Now, she has so many health complications, she's basically lost the will to live. Follow me. She's applied for the MAID service, which in Canada is just government murder system. They're even they're even offering up suicide to veterans who have got mental health issues. Yes, that's true here in Canada, Stan. Now get this one. Back to the poor Barbara. So she's got too many health complications. She's been offered the snuff yourself out route. She's taken it. She signed up for it. And she's slated to be murdered by a government on June 1st. Okay? Follow me. Well, her doctor told her, well, you might as well get the latest vaccination. She's dying in what, 9 days? 8 days? He told her she needs to get the latest vaccination anyway. Her health complications has made it too tough for her to find her way to the hospital to get this vaccination that her doctor told her she needed 9 days before she's going to be killed by the government. So they decided to send her a nurse to administer the VAX and charge her for it. I'm not kidding. That's firsthand story. And she went along with it. Went with her doctor's advice to get vaccinated before she gets murdered by a government by suicide on June 1st. And she had too many health complications due to all the past garbage to even get herself to the hospital. So they charged her and advised her to, well, we'll send out a nurse and we'll send you the bill. Make sure you pay up before June 1st, though, right? Whoa. Whoa. What do you guys have to say about it? Who gives a shit what I got to say about it? You know what I got to say about that. But what do you guys think about that one? Please. Every person who hears this story, firsthand factual story from me right now, throw down in the comment section what you think of that one. All right? Holy shit. Only in the civilized first world of Canada, Stan, right? So weak. So sad. Wow. All right. Off to a great start, aren't we? So, what are we going to do today besides we're going to hear from a whole bunch of honest, brave people. I'll bite my lip on a shit pile of other topics for now. Obviously, I can really get going on them. So, let's hear some voices instead of me rant-a-rooing, all right? I'm sure a lot of you are ranting right now about what I just told you and hopefully sharing it with your friends and family. So tempting just to find out who that doctor is. Maybe go have a private talk to him after hours, right? Somebody. How many more doctors like that are running around our communities? How many? How many? What needs to be done with them? All right. This is titled... Guess Who's Talking? Now remember, you guys, there's a bunch of these that are fresh off the frying pan, and there's a whole bunch that I've discovered while searching for those missing voices, which there's hundreds. Hundreds. So I've got them from all over the calendar, all right? Some fresh, some not so fresh, but everybody needs to be heard. Now listen to this. This is titled, Guess Who's Talking? Hello, Steve. You can read online and use my name. It's Rick. And you hit the nail on the head when discussing mind speak. When in the woods and a dread feeling hits you, this is the part where it gets weird. People say that they just heard "get out" or something like that. I think in the terror, the message got out or something like that could happen to be mind speak. As many people don't know how it is going to sound and expectations, the voice sounds so much like your inner voice that you can tell because the voice screaming "get out" did not originate with you. Many people have told me they don't have an inner voice and they need to realize their inner voice. It's the way you put what you think into you. This says what you do, did, or are going to do. The moment your inner voice is screaming, "Look out for that branch" or "Run faster," you will start to see that what you heard only half came from your you. Right there in the terror, you received mind speak. When you go into the forest, you say that you know that they are here and you have rights to be there. They heard you, even if you don't speak the words out loud. Now be ready for this. They have abilities to come into your head and speak your language. Though some universal language translations device that has the language, through some universal language translations device that has the language of everything on the planet. Sounds really crazy, but they just tap in and use this system to communicate with you or anything they want. Think about when all the birds and insects go silent all at the same time. I think they were told to shut up until told to resume. Just a thought after reading about what our secret groups have been perfecting for decades. They use this on people that they convince these are your own thoughts. They use research obtained by feeding their subjects with acid and projecting words into their head. Just a different perspective. Thanks, Rick. Wow. There you go. And there you go. Take from what you will. Appreciate that email, man. I'm sure you're jerking a lot of wheels and spinning between some ears right now. Without a doubt. What do we got here? This is titled, I Believe. Hello, Steve and family. This is Barbara from Alabama. Roll Tide. Roll Tide, Barbara. Miss Barbara. I sent my story in March 26, 2025, and thanks for reading it. Thanks for reading it. I felt so honored, and it let me know that you are real. This is my last story, and maybe more people from around Alabama will tell their story, but first, just want to say I'm jealous of all the different coffee mugs you drink out of, LOL. I've had so many coffee mugs emailed to me, it's stupid. The cupboard's full. Okay, here we go. That same Easter Sunday, 50 years ago, I met a man at my grandparents' house that had the same name as my name. Is Barbara Jean. Everyone calls me Jean or Bobby Jean if you're country, LOL. The man said, who out there named Jean? I said me, and he said his name was Jean also, short for Eugene. So I sat on the porch and talked to him. I was 10 years old, and I've always talked to people my children say I talk too much. It started getting dark, so Gene said his goodbye, and he lived 2 or 3 miles from my grandma's house down a lonely road, maybe 3 or 4 houses was on the road before you get to the store, where he still had a good walk home. By me writing this, the memories make me want to cry. There were 2 old ladies named Miss Carrie and Miss Fanny, lived in a small blue house on that road, and when I went to their house, me and my brother, they always gave us buttermilk and cornbread and ginger snap cookies. Good times. And down from them was Mr. Red Oliver. He was Native American / black / and white, LOL. He was a bootlegger. Him and his wife was good friends of my mom. So, as Gene was leaving, I said, "Are you not scared of walking home down the road by yourself?" And he said, "No." He said one night he was walking home and something big and tall, not a bear, crossed the road in front of him. And he said it stopped and looked at him and just continued crossing into the woods. And Gene said he continued on down the road home. 2. Number 2. I have a good friend, a drinking buddy named James. He grew up and from Greensboro, Alabama. It's rural also, and they have catfish farms there, and it's about 1 hour from Sawyerville, Alabama. I think James is between 65 and 70 years old, and I told him my story, I sent you, and told him about what Gene had told me also. And James said when he was maybe 10 years old on a Sunday, late for church, so he rode his bike through the woods, and as he was riding, he pasted a bear sitting on a log. Pasted? A bear sitting on a log. So he told his mom, and she said, "Stop lying." I think he must have meant he saw a bear sitting on a log. Or passed. Sorry, you meant passed. It said pasted. Sorry, you guys. We're all here together. First time reading, all right? He was riding. He passed a bear sitting on a log. So he told his mom, and she said, "Stop lying. There's no bear in the woods." So, Steve and the How to Hunt friends, do bears sit on logs? Thanks again for sharing my story and helping people. You and Sarah. Barbara, appreciate you. Greensboro. I think I had some friends from Greensboro email me here for me to come and visit, and I had a lot of people saying to go to Greensboro, and I had a friend of mine near Butler, Alabama, said the Greensboro was like a frickin' hotbed for these sightings of these people. I'll get there. Next. This is titled Sasquatch in Paradise. Steve, I have a great deal of respect for you and what you're doing. This may be a bit longer than the average story, but it takes place in quite an odd place and far from the forest. My name is Michael Gisecki, and I live in Land of the Lakes, Florida. And my story begins in Dixie County, Florida, on the Suwannee River. Around 1976, while at my father's second home in Old Pine Landing during hunting season, men who were Vietnam vets and considered family by mine were telling a story about canoeing down the Suwannee close to where the river starts all the way to Dixie County? Dixie County, right? Dixie County. These men were serious when explaining how something on 2 feet followed them on the riverbank for miles. At one point, it even broke green limbs from trees at least 8 feet off the ground and screamed / yelled at them violently and threw the limbs at them in the middle of the river. During these years, I have experienced feelings I can only describe as a quick drop in blood sugar, followed by my vision being affected, combined with a percussion wave affecting my ears / affecting my sense of balance. Fast forward to 2016, the strangest gathering of owls in one place. Large owls, 11 of them, all within 100 feet of each other. These owls shouldn't exist in in such close proximity of each other. Yet here they were, hooting and looking deep into my soul. The first sighting was between 10 and 11 a.m. from a window on the second floor at a distance of less than 60 feet in a green, grassy, open area right in front of the condo I'm living in. The single large tree standing alone from all others in the small strip of wooded area surrounding a lake, surrounded by nudist resorts. Yes, not your standard Bigfoot experience. Unless the nudists are covered in hair. This day, the tree looks to be twice the size as the day before. It looked as though there was new Spanish moss on the east side of the huge pine tree. So much so, I asked my roommate to look at the tree and explain the overnight growth. She and I both looked back at the tree as the Spanish moss on the east side then stepped away from the tree. And I was effing stunned, as was she. It was about 8 to 9 feet tall, and it was gray with black specks, and it looked so much like a Florida screech owl in color. And amazingly, if you were to take the head off of a screech owl and make it proportional to fit on an 8 to 9 foot tall, 700 plus pound upright walking body, that's what its head and face looked like. What the hell? Eye plates and all. Crazy. For the next few years, I saw these people who I do not believe were hairy, but actually feathery. And I know it sounds crazy. Whenever the screech owls were screeching, I knew they were out there. There are several different types. Not sure if they are different species or a subspecies or even races of these people. My best friend worked for the NSA, and he has spent the better part of the years trying to disprove many of the outlandish things I've told him. And to date, with all his resources, he has yet to disprove anything. Now, as I become more aware of the presence of these people, owls, the largest owls in the world are 26 to 28 inches tall from head to tail. Have you ever heard a hoot from an owl way off in the distance, yet the hoot is so loud it rattles your chest? It is physically impossible for such a small animal to make such a loud sound. Not owls. I started to hear what I can only describe as two people who don't speak the same language trying to communicate with each other, and flashes of what I will call pictographs in my mind. I would look at the place I knew the sounds were coming from, but nothing was there. And once they realized I was hearing them, the largest one I've seen, I believe him to be the alpha because the others were afraid of him. Or like wolves, they were subservient to his authority. And he was 14 feet tall, and if I had to guess, 3,000 pounds, and he moved as if he only weighed 100 pounds. He would come right up to the window of my room. I heard him ask in perfect English if I could hear him. I answered yes. That first night, that was the end of our dialect. And when I saw him in person, it was shocking. He was about 70 to 100 feet away from me, and the sun was setting. When our eyes met, he closed the distance between us in a nanosecond, and its huge face was right in mine. And I believe he imprinted on me in such a way he knew my DNA makeup. He would never forget me, as his children and my children would also be this familiar for generations to come. This particular person looked like a giant Paul Bunyan. He looked human. He looked human as me, but just a giant. Dark hair, beard, but not a full face of hair. Just no clothes, somewhat hairy, but not unlike myself. This story is still ongoing, and I will continue if you're interested enough. There is other information I cannot share publicly, but if you would like to know my feelings and beliefs as well as the knowledge he shared with me, use my name, people. All believe I'm crazy anyways. Thanks, Steve. Drive on. And F them in the neck if they don't believe. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I know what I know. Michael Gisecki, Land O'Lakes, Florida. Michael, this one hell of a frickin' something to see. Holy shit. I mean, the description is right off the frickin' chart, right? Gotta admit. But keep us informed. And if anybody else has experienced something similar than that, throw down in the comment section below or email it to us, all right? And I'll share it. I will share it. All right, now, we have an email. What am I? All right, we're going to read this. This is titled Ria's Chase, Port Alberni. Right outside the door. All right. What do we got? Hi, Steve. I've been following your channel for a few years now. I started following you, watching you hunt blacktails. That's when I subscribed to you. Anyways, that's not the point. So, growing up around my dad and grandpa in the bush, I'd heard a lot about Sasquatch. I never got any real stories out of my grandpa, as he passed before I was old enough to understand what I was interested in. Anyway, a few years later, my father had zero doubt in his mind about Sasquatch towards me, yet never shared any stories with me. But I really think he had something he was hiding from me, like he was holding something back, so I wasn't scared to keep hunting, kind of thing. A few months later, I was trolling 40 feet from the shoreline in Great Central Lake. And I was with a friend, and we had music really loud. But we were in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I'm pretty sure you know Great Central area. And we were way up past Boy Scouts camp on the side of the lake you can't drive to. But I had my boat speakers playing music so loud, and my friend and I looked at each other, and I turned the loud music off, and we heard tree knocks. I would not have even thought anything about this, but we both heard it and looked at each other, and we heard probably 5 knocks after the music was off. And I swear, no normal-sized being could make that noise. Like I heard it was someone beating on a tree, but they could hold on to that log that had to be 5 inches in diameter to make that brute force noise it was making against the tree. We heard probably, like I said, 5 or 6 good smacks, like if you did it with a baseball bat, the bat would break. But if you did it with a big log, it would vibrate so bad and not make much noise. But it was insanely loud. And we just felt a weird feeling like someone was telling us to F off. There's no way anyone could or would be where this happened. Share that half of the story as it is mine if you'd like, but this isn't my story. I'm just passing it off to you. So anyways, I'm from Port Alberni, and I've had a spot. I have had a... All right, I'm going to have to do some editing there. I just read the whole email, and then he gets to the bottom, and then he says at the end, please don't repeat the last half. All right, but what I will say out of that, I won't repeat the story because you're scared of all the details you gave of who it was, but let's just say a woman that he knows, son, was ripping around up around Great Central, which is right over here, and he got stuck in some snow. His mom went to help him and saw huge tracks in the snow and then turned around driving down the road, and a Sasquatch went ripping down and across the road in front of him. There you go. That's the gist of it. I think he didn't want me to share that half of the story he typed because it had all the names and the description, the business, all everything. It's up. I got it. And all that's going on right over here. Just over there from my place. A lot has gone on over there. And I actually took you guys there a couple years ago. I took you guys there, and I took you guys to a small lake one evening, just me and you guys, and it was frickin' quiet there. Now, who else? You know what? I'll bet you if I was inclined to and I got online or whatever, got on social media and I decided I was going to throw some kind of a public meeting and rent a hall in Port Alberni, I'll bet you there would be hundreds of people there. If it was just for this topic. That's how common it is around here. I will bet you there'd be easy over 100 people to show up. Without a doubt. Probably a few hundred, I'll bet. Plus. That's how common it is around here. Now, mystery visitor in Sedona, Arizona. Greetings, Steve. You recently read my stories about being visited by a sabe in the middle of the night when I was 4 and living in Carmel Valley, California. as well as my 2021 experiences with a possible dog man being on my roof. Maybe I think I might have, and you sent us pictures of that too, didn't you? Of the roof. We were visiting my in-laws in Sedona, Arizona in '88. And upon arriving, we took our 6-month-old son on a hike around the base of the Red Rocks. I simultaneously saw a fresh, big cat print at a creek and felt alarms going off in my head. My husband had the choice of leaving with us or walking back to his parents' house. And late that night, I was awake watching old movies. My bed was directly under a large, high, open window that slid horizontally. The baby and my husband were sound asleep, and our dog was patrolling the house before crashing on the floor. And I noted a horrible smell wafting in from outside. It smelled like body odor and roadkill, and immediately got my attention. I turned off the TV to fully darken the room, and I heard a deep sniffing and huffing at the window. There was the unmistakable sound of the window screen stressing against something pushing against it. I tried to wake my husband to no avail. The dog was shivering and was trying to wedge herself under the bed. I was terrified, thinking it might be a mountain lion. I was afraid to slide the window closed as I couldn't see out the window due to my height. I went out to the great room and cut on the floodlights that illuminates the yard. I peeked through the shutters but couldn't see the outside of the window because of the fireplace chimney. I returned to the bedroom, noting the smell was gone. I closed and locked the window and waited for morning. And the next morning I found my father-in-law removing the screen to our window. The nylon mesh looked stretched out, and there was an area where the red dust was displaced. It looked like a huge handprint. There's also a sparkling area where it looked like something had licked the screen and the saliva dried. Urgh. Definitely wasn't a mountain lion. Regards, Roxanne Andrew. There you go. And you're emailing it into us, so you know what it was. And a quick note on the smell. Get this one, you guys. Hold on a minute. So today, in between doing work stuff, I had to go. Not I had to go, but I'll take a break. I'm doing something difficult and I can't figure it out, and I'll just walk away, split some wood or something. And I've been attacking the broom bush. It's called Scotch broom. Scotch broom or Scotch broom. And I had one big cluster of it around a group of 4 or 5 fir trees out in the front end of my property. And I went out there today. I put a blade on the weed eater, motorized weed eater, but I put a blade on it for cutting down the broom bush. I've been killing all of it. It's in bloom. And I went to the 4 or 5 trees, which are in full view of our bedroom, went to the front of the house. And anyway, the stink around those frickin' trees this morning when I was doing that was unbelievable. And I looked around everywhere. And there's nothing there. Because I had already cleared the land out front on that part of the property. My friend had some equipment, came over last summer and cleared it. So this is the last of the brush, the cover I would call it, was around those 5 trees out front. I chopped it all down, but I started cutting into that shit, and that stink was disgusting. Whatever it was, and there's nothing there. Rotting. Side note, right? Think of whatever you think of with that side note. But I know I'll be taking note of it. And I'll tell you what, it's a fairly common thing for me to go outside with the thermal and have a peek around at night sometimes. I just do. But I know where I'll be looking in the future. Now, yeah, the smell is frickin' nasty. I don't know what it could be. I should take the dog over there actually and see how the dog reacts to that scent. I'm sure it's still there right now. Now, what do we got? Who do we got? Large being that won't die. All right. Here we go. Hello, my name is JR, and these are occurrences. I live in central Oklahoma. My wife and I were watching a movie at about 10:30 p.m. and we heard a strange high-pitched call come from beside the house. I paused the movie and we heard nothing, so we resumed what we were watching. And 30 or 40 minutes later, we heard a loud stomping going across the roof of the house. See, that would freak anybody out. I proceeded to the far end of the house and noticed a shadow in the window of the laundry room, and I stopped and told my wife to bring me the shotgun, as I stayed and watched the window of the door that led to the back of the house. 12 gauge in hand, I slung the door open to find nothing but the pit bull hiding in his doghouse. I was standing on the back stairs, about 4 feet off the ground, and I surveyed the land from left to right with the flashlight and shotgun and saw nothing. And from my back porch to the fence separating the 20 acres from my house was only about 30 feet. And as I swept left to right, I seen a black mass emerge from the tall grass on my right side, and it stood up looking me eye to eye. And I'm 5'11", standing on a 4-foot tall set of stairs. Wow. And all I can think about is how massive this being is. We're talking about damn near 10 feet tall, shoulders around 40 to 48 inches wide, and all I could do is rack off 3 rounds of 12 gauge number 4s into its center mass. I would like to add that I'm an avid skeet shooter and known for not missing a shot. After racking off 3 shots center mass, the being let out a yell and stepped over my 42-inch tall fence and ran off into the darkness. I went into the house and pulled out my .500 Smith & Wesson and headed across the field, following the tracks toward my pond. When I arrived at the pond, I found nothing. Like it had walked into the pond and disappeared. I found no tracks anywhere else, and all the way around the pond was clear of any signs. The next morning, looking into everything, I found no blood, no hair on the fence, and nothing to point to this being shot 3 times. Anything that can take 3 rounds of number 4 12 gauge and not leave a trace is definitely on my weird shitometer. That's on my weird shitometer too. With a lot of other stuff on my shitometer. I wish I could have had a better visual look at the being, but it was almost dark behind my house. The security light out front gave a shadowed glimpse, but that's all. So, I know it was 9 to 10 feet tall and at least 40 inches wide. I hope this helps to get the truth out there. Sincerely, JR. All right, JR. I'm glad you're still with us, right? I'm glad you're still with us. Now, I don't imagine that whatever that was is going to be coming back. But if it does, I don't think he's going to be too happy with your ass, right? Who knows? I don't know. But how many times have we heard about people shooting with a shotgun? All they do is scream and run. Sometimes they've dropped to their knees and ran from a shotgun blast. And do I suggest or urge anyone to do that? Nope. I wouldn't do that. You couldn't pay me to do that unless, of course, it was ultimately being threatened. I'm being threatened. It's game on. But I'm always packing a high-powered rifle. And the word on the street is, and this isn't just to do it, you'll never become famous for anything, but if you are truly feeling threatened, or you have been forced into mortal combat, the word on the street is headshots only with a high-power rifle. It's the word on the street. Do I know this fact? Never shot one. All I can relay is what many people have emailed in. There you go. That's a pretty scary event, man. I hope nothing else happens to either side at your place. Wow. What's this one? Somebody's puzzle's coming together. All right. Let's hear it. My puzzle coming together. Please do not use my name if you read this. Okay, I got you. My father was more than half Cherokee Indian, and he grew up in the old ways of his people. When I was between the ages of 10 to 14 years old, we lived on 1,300 acres in Missouri. That was originally homesteaded by one of my dad's great uncles in the late 1800s. I had free run of the place, and there was very little of that property that I had not been on at least once. The house we lived in was situated in the middle of that place, and there was a river that ran on 3 sides of the house. Behind the house, about 100 yards or so, was a large rock the size of a small house that sat on the edge of the river. The water was deep there, and it made for a good swimming hole. One night, my father and I went fishing off the big rock. We'd been there about an hour or so when I heard what sounded like people talking way off in the distance across the bottomlands. I asked him if someone was coming to visit, and he said it was talking owls. He gave me some kind of explanation about hoot owls during mating season will make a sound that sounds like someone talking. He said it could be kind of spooky if you didn't know what it was. In my young mind, it kind of made sense, and I accepted it as truth. And a few minutes later, we went back to the house. And I'm almost 65 now, and my dad has been gone for close to 20 years. But if he was alive today, I would revisit that conversation with him to see if maybe he would have another explanation for these voices. And I have become a member of the Club of No Return through an experience one night while changing the batteries in a game camera a buddy and I had set up to watch for wild hogs. That's another story, and is outside the premise of this letter. So maybe I can share that one some other time. But since becoming a member of the club, my mind has brought things back to me. In my mind, I think it would be normal for someone who has experienced Sabe to obsess while looking for confirmation and answers, and I did for several years. Memories of certain things, especially on the 1,300 acres, have come together to give me a aha moment or two. My own little piece of the puzzle, if you will. Like, for instance, in all my wandering around those woods, river bottoms and farmland, I always felt like I was being watched. Maybe I was being watched, or maybe I was just a neurotic kid. Who can say for sure? But also, I believe my dad knew what those voices were, being Cherokee. I believe he made up some weird explanation so I wouldn't be afraid of the woods. My dad knew my constitution and knew that if he told me the truth, I would be afraid of those woods and would no longer explore the place. Perhaps that was commendable of him, who knows. Several years later, I got a summer job working with the Forest Service in Idaho, and I was chased off the top of a mountain one night by something I couldn't see. It was just out of sight in the moonlight. At first I thought it could be a deer or something, and I wasn't afraid, but when I started back down toward camp, it followed me, and somehow that frightened me. I took off running down the side of the ravine where we were camped in, and it followed me. Even as a stupid kid in my late teens, I knew the difference in the way a 4-footed animal runs and a 2-footed animal. I never saw it, but it kept pace with me on 2 feet. I never heard anything other than its crunching through the dry leaves, and I didn't smell anything either. It was maybe 10 feet from me all the way down the mountain until I got into the light of the camp. Holy shit, 10 feet! That's 2.5 paces. Three paces, I mean. Human paces. Whatever it was gone at that point. And I was happy to see a campfire and other people still awake, and I told them what just happened. Nobody there seemed to have any idea what it could have been, and I didn't either at the time. Sasquatch, Sabe, Bigfoot, or whatever never entered my mind, never entered my thinking until about 15 years ago when I joined the club while trying to find some wild hogs to shoot in Arkansas. But that's another story. Damn, there's a couple good stories you missed. And all these experiences and others have brought me to the point of being convinced that I have been around them many times in my life and was unaware of it. Several times I've been scared, and others just calmly aware that I was being watched. If I had known then what I think of now, what I think I know now, I would have probably locked myself in my room and never come out. Thank you for your channel, Steve, and thank you for what you do. It's been the stories you read that have triggered memories of things I'd forgotten, creating several ahas as I put my puzzle together. Keep up the good work. And I apologize this is so long. No problem, man. It wasn't that long. We've had some way longer than that. If you're still hanging out, send us your other 2 stories. We're all over it. Send them in. I have so many emails that aren't read, you guys. It is absolutely unbelievable. So many. Here's a familiar name. Location. I don't even know how long this is. Not too long. Here we go. Nahatlatch. Possible encounter. Hello, Steve. I found your YouTube channel while trying to figure out what I had heard late one night camping at Squawcum Campground on Nahatlatch Lake, BC. Last Labor Day long weekend. It was our last night and the fire ban had just been lifted. Our group of 4 stayed at the fire until about midnight, 1 a.m. And I stayed and watched the embers burn down for a bit before dousing the fire and hitting the sack. I couldn't quite fall asleep. Too much caffeine, I'm thinking. It was about 3:30 in the morning when I heard this huge, bellowing roar. It sounded like it came from just outside my tent. I heard no footsteps or activity, and the roar was repeated. The sound was unlike any animal or bird I've ever heard before. I don't know how, but my wife slept through it, as did my brother-in-law in a neighboring tent. His wife was asleep in their car near our tent to get some peace and quiet from her husband's snoring. She heard it too. I found out over coffee the next morning, and we discussed what we heard and decided it was some kind of big-ass owl or something, and we kind of glossed over it. And since then, I've been trying to Google different animal sounds without success when I stumbled on your channel. There are some recordings online of Sasquatch vocalizations that came close to what I heard, but I'm still unsure. I just wanted to share this to see if anyone's had similar experiences in the area. The campground was pretty quiet for a long weekend because it was the first weekend it was open after the fire closure of that area and rain was forecasted. Keep doing what you do. I've subscribed and will share your channel with my sister-in-law, who is also trying to figure out what she heard that night. It's hard to talk about amongst our peers, isn't it? Regards. Could I share your name? I'll share it. George Lee. Thanks, George. Appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Let me have a quick look here. I think... Oh, that's in the Fraser Valley. All right, let's have a look at where that is. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, you're just below the Stein Valley. I mean, you're in between Lytton and Boston Bar on one side, and where I used to live on the left side, and Port Douglas. Basically, yeah, you're in ground zero. Ground zero. And there are many of these people, beings, whatever you want to call them, frequenting there as I speak. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Huh. So looking at the road, I'm guessing, oh, looks like you can drive in there from past Francis Lake. So you can drive all the way in there from the Fraser River itself. Okay, so imagine that's the way you went in. If you didn't go in from that way, you would have had to come down from Pemberton, my old home, and hang a left by the looks of it. All right, gotcha. There you go, you guys. Nahatlatch Lake. Anybody else? Stein Valley. I know of a shit pile of sightings all around there. I mean a shit pile. So many. There you go. Nothing surprising when you shared that zone. What do we got here? Another one. This is titled, I Got My Sabe Believer Fixed. fairly long email. Holy, this is way too long for right now. Damn it. All right, I'll unmark that as read and we'll save it for later. When I get the really long ones like that, I have to get them to them early, right? How about this one? Ooh, that's a long one too. Holy. Yeah, what the hell? This isn't that long, but it's fairly long. I'm gonna go in. I'm going in. Encounters 2.0 abridged. Hello, Steve. First off, thank you for what you do. I respect this endeavor very much. I've written once, but figured it was too long or not believed as it was not read. And it's been a few months now. Yeah, well, hopefully you know by now that's not the case about believe or not. It's just haven't found it, haven't got to it. All my life I've had encounters with various beings from toddler age until recently. These videos have helped me fill in the memory blanks, and the constant information keeps me putting the pieces together of my own puzzles. I don't care if you say my name or not, or locations. Corey Merrill. Dannemora, Morrisonville, Cadieville, Plattsburgh, hometown, Scioto, Vermontville, Paradox Lake, Utica, and Nyack to the Tappan Zee Bridge, all New York State, and I already read this. Didn't I? Why is this not marked as read? Yeah, read that. All right, well, oops. Marked as read again, twice. How the hell's that go down? Well, how about this one? Mother Squash is the name title of this email to us. Steve, as I write this, I'm sitting in a stand in Iowa hunting whitetails. I love the channel and all the stories. Feels like a good place to tell my first encounters. I've had a couple. Wow. I hope you're not going to miss a big buck walking by while doing this. Or you didn't. I grew up near the Platte River in Nebraska on a small farm. My grandparents have a 200-acre farm near the Platte River State Park. They have farm ground mixed with thick cedar tree stands in the hills, so thick that the National Guard used it as training land back in the 70s. The house is on a gravel road, with a dirt road leading back to the cattle barn and feeding area. When I was 12, my grandpa asked me to ride my bike to the barn to shut the hydrant off, as I had done many times before. Sorry, I said to see if that thing was working. I rode back there and shut it off. And as I did, a feeling of being watched hit me hard. I looked up in the pasture next to the beginning of the trees, and I saw 3 figures. One was 8 to 9 feet, followed by 2 more half that size. They were dark in color and covered in hair. Too far away to see facial figures, just big and muscular. All 3 just watching me. Then the 2 small ones moved away from the big one into the trees, and the big one then took 4 steps down the hill toward me, and I felt the fear kick in. It was still 100 yards away, but I knew I had to leave now. I rode back as fast as possible and told them all what had happened, and I was shrugged off like a kid telling a story. Except Mom later told me when she grew up, there was a kid the creatures would... Except what Mom later told me. When she grew up, there, as a kid, the creatures would follow her in the woods and chase her back to the house. Never harming anyone, just grunting at them and pacing them as if to herd my mom and friends out of the woods. I'm glad someone else has had this experience to vindicate mine. I now wonder if the National Guard ever saw them or was actually tracking them. Thanks for sharing, Nick N. There you go. So many family secrets, right? And why did Mom tell her kids? Why did Mom raise her kids with the truth? You know? And I'm not saying she's guilty of anything. Everybody just can't talk about it. I don't know why. Not everybody, but so many. But this couple of these emails here struck a memory I had. Now listen to this one. So when I became interested in hunting, I became interested in hunting on my own. I didn't come from a hunting family. And I shared this before. When I had to go to my mom and stepmonster's place in Souk, I used to run up to the top of the hill where the road dead ended, where they live, in this big, almost call it a higher end trailer park, I guess, ocean views and shit on the top of the mountain, real nice places. And if you went up to the very top of that property along Lannon Creek, at the very top, there's an open yard. That's the end of the whole property. And from there, it's just bush and the Souk Hills, right? And there was a mound of topsoil there. And I remember I didn't have a target or anything. I'd get 4 sticks that long, and I'd push it into the topsoil, push it in, push it in, push it in. And that would be my target. And I'd always go up there. I was just a little kid, and that's how I taught myself to shoot a bow. Instead of being in the house with that alcoholic sack of shit. Not my mom, her husband. So anyway, but always there's thick brush where the creek, Lannon Creek, disappeared into the thick wall of brush at the end of that lot. And two memories, actually. This memory and the other one I'm going to share. And I could just feel eyeballs burning into me so many times. There's no house up there. There's no nothing. Just me shooting my bow and the wall of brush right there. And I'll never forget that. That's probably the first time. First time would have been at that lake I mentioned yesterday with the float plane in the photograph. I remember feeling that extreme pressure from the timber there that time specifically. So that's probably the first time I ever felt the pressure, for sure. And then this time, and it was just nothing but eyeballs and pressure coming from that left side. I shrugged it off thinking I was just being a little pussy or something like that, but moving along. So another friend of the family, a senior friend of the family, through my dad's side of his new relationship and family that he brought into our lives, the older man grew up in Souk, typical logging and shit, and I managed to be able to jump in and go hunting with him and his son a few times with a rifle as I was learning how to hunt. But they just typically just drove around. They didn't really hunt like I hunt now. But get this one. I'll never forget, because I remember every word said. I don't know why. I remember every frickin' word said my whole life. This kind of sucks in a way too, right? Because then you catch people bullshitting without intentionally looking for them bullshitting when you have a memory like that, but whatever. But get this one. I'll never forget him. He's one of those older guys, they had the thick glasses on, those glasses that would dim and shit, and he always had that cold look. That emotionless guy that kind of would put the fright of you just from looking at you. But he actually helped me get my first huge buck that I shot with my bow. I couldn't find it, and he came and helped me locate it later on. But anyways, that's not the point I'm making. What I'm trying to get out of me is, I remember asking him about Sasquatch, and if he thought there was really Sasquatch out there. And I remember thinking, if anybody knows, it's going to be him. And I vividly remember him saying, no. Right? Then, who knows how many years or how much time later, I specifically remember, I don't know if I was in the truck with him or 2 other people just driving along, looking out the window, looking for deer and bullshit along, and I think I know I said it. And I said, I wonder what they do, what Sasquatch do. Do they just watch us or something? I wonder what they do when they see us out there. And I remember him saying, instant reply, no, I think they just stare at you. But I remember him saying it without thinking about what his answer was going to be. You know what I mean? It just came out. I think they just stare at you. They just stare at you. They just watch you. No, I remember he said they just watch you. So I'm like, huh? Well, that's the same guy that said earlier, nope, they don't exist. And all of a sudden he just blurted out, they just stare at you, watch you. I never get a story out of him, but I don't think I ever pushed for it, but I never forgot that. And it just made me, a couple of these emails make me think about that a little more. How many people are harboring these truths from their family? Of all people. I'll never understand that. I will, in this lifetime, if there's one thing I will never understand, it is the family the mom or the dad who see and know and do not raise their children with that truth is absolutely whoosh, over my head. I don't get it. I'm not picking up why. It doesn't make me angry. It just throws in another mystery that I want to solve. Why? Why is that? Amazing. I mean, you got parents with young children who are starting to go rip around on their own bicycles out in the back 40 and there's grizzly bears out there. You're going to teach your kids about grizzly bears, right? If you're in the city and you got your kids are going to start going outside and playing, they're going to go down that back alley where there's prostitution and heroin addicts banging needles in their arms, you're probably going to raise your children to be aware of that if you're in the city, right? You know what I mean? It's just common sense to load up your kids with and arm them with the knowledge. It just blows me away how many parents don't tell their children what they saw. I mean, if we're being programmed that way to assist in denying this truth, holy shit, the effort they put through is amazing. The effort that's been thrown down to keep us from acknowledging or speaking out loud this truth is absolutely frickin' mind-boggling to me, especially at this point of the game, right? How many people have we had come forward just here, not even counting the whole rest of the internet, the books, the TV shows, the people in the street, the gun clubs, Boy Scouts, campers, whatever. It's absolutely mind-boggling how they managed to keep this suppressed so well, to me. Here comes the dog. What are you doing here? It's the little one-eyed French dog. French bulldog who likes to come in here and pee all over the shop. Okay, you gotta go. Get out of here, PP. I'm gonna name you PP, poor old senior pup. But anyway, guys, that's it. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Please get your truth shared, all right? Quit harboring it. It doesn't even make sense at this stage of the game. Tens of thousands of people coming forward with honest truth. And what else? It's Wednesday today, Thursday tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm by myself. And we're going to figure out, I don't know, what are you guys doing on Friday? Should we just sit here and drink beer with each other? Anybody want to get drunk and tell stupid stories live? That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it? Sarah be like, did you get drunk online on Friday? No, but my friends did. And maybe we'll figure out what we're going to do and how we are going to get these out to you. Are we going to auction them off? What are we going to do? There's more bang for your buck for these items to get some more of those kids fed. And these are one of a kind. There is no other. I can't imagine every single pine cone's the same, but these are they're all different, right? They're one of a kind items. 5 to 7 hours of time it took per. How do you put a price tag on that? And where the money goes to? Maybe we can do that when I'll try to go live on Friday. We'll see. And we can all on the live in the discussion, the chat part, whatever you want to call it, we'll figure it out together how we're going to do this. All right. And I'll announce the winner of the next Guard Pro trail camera on Friday too, day after tomorrow. I still got a big box of them to go. All right, we got a lot of draws yet for all of you that are feeding the kids and are members of the channel. So there. I'll be back tomorrow.